Your brain was not designed for constant entertainment. Boredom was never a flaw in human behavior. It was a signal, and losing that signal quietly changed how we think, how we focus, and how we feel. Most people treat boredom like a problem to solve as fast as possible. A free moment appears, and we immediately fill it. The line at the store, the red light, the quiet room, the slow afternoon, the awkward pause, all get covered up. We reach for a screen before we even notice we are reaching. We refresh, we scroll, we skim, we switch, and we call it normal. But for most of human history, boredom wasn't something you could erase instantly. There was no feed to refill your attention on demand. There was no infinite stream of novelty waiting in your pocket. If the world got quiet, you had to sit inside that quiet. And that is where boredom mattered. Because boredom wasn't just empty time. Boredom was feedback. It told the brain that something in the current situation wasn't paying off anymore. It signaled that continuing to spend energy here was not worth it. It created a small discomfort that nudged behavior toward a change. That discomfort wasn't punishment. It was guidance. If you think about it, that makes sense as a survival system. A creature that stays stuck doing the same useless thing forever is a creature that misses food, misses danger, and misses opportunity. So boredom acted like an internal push to explore. Not explore for fun, but explore for improvement. It pushed you to move, to look, to test, to learn, and to adapt. It helped you switch from repeating to searching. It helped you notice when the environment changed. It helped you notice when your strategy stopped working. It helped you stop wasting time before you even knew you were wasting time. And this is the part most people miss. Boredom did not mean you needed entertainment. Boredom meant you needed direction. It meant the brain was looking for something more meaningful than what it currently had. That could be a new task. That could be solving a problem. That could be improving a tool. That could be learning a skill. That could be reorganizing plans. That could be talking to someone. That could be walking somewhere and noticing the world. Boredom was often the doorway into creativity. Because creativity is what happens when the brain starts connecting things that weren't connected before. When the mind isn't being constantly fed, it starts generating. It starts simulating. It starts experimenting. It starts replaying memories and testing possibilities. It starts asking, what else could I do? It starts asking, what matters right now? And boredom was the trigger that opened that loop. Now compare that with modern entertainment. Modern entertainment is not just fun. It is instant relief from the discomfort that used to guide you. The moment boredom starts to rise, you can anesthetize it. A screen is always available. A notification can interrupt any quiet moment. A new clip can appear before the previous thought finishes. And when boredom is erased that fast, the brain doesn't get to interpret it. It doesn't get to use it. The signal gets cut off before it completes its message. So, over time, boredom stops functioning like feedback. Not because boredom disappears, but because you never let it stay long enough to mean anything. This creates a strange modern situation. You can be constantly entertained and still feel restless. You can be constantly stimulated and still feel unfulfilled. You can be busy all day and still feel like nothing happened. Because the brain wasn't looking for more stimulation. The brain was looking for a better direction. And when entertainment becomes the default response to boredom, direction gets replaced by distraction. That's where focus starts to change. Because focus is not just willpower. Focus is what happens when the brain expects that staying with something will produce a meaningful payoff. When you train the brain to expect a payoff every few seconds, it becomes harder to stay with slower rewards. A book becomes too slow. A project feels too heavy. Practice feels boring. Learning feels frustrating. Deep work feels uncomfortable. And none of that is a personal failure. It is a trained expectation. If your brain gets used to rapid novelty, it begins to treat normal pace as a problem. It starts scanning for an exit. It starts looking for the next hit of newness. Not because you are weak, because the environment taught your attention what to expect. And boredom sits right at the center of that training. Boredom is the moment where you either build tolerance for stillness or you teach yourself that stillness must be escaped. When you always escape it, you never develop the ability to stay. So attention becomes more fragile. It fractures sooner. It feels harder to control. Motivation becomes more unstable. It rises quickly, then collapses. Because motivation is easy when the reward is immediate. Motivation is harder when the reward is delayed. And boredom is what you feel in the delay. So if boredom is always erased, the brain loses practice living inside the delay. That's why modern productivity advice often fails. It assumes the problem is discipline. But often, the deeper issue is that boredom used to train the brain for sustained effort, and we removed that training. Now let's take this one step deeper. Boredom isn't only about wanting something new. Boredom is also about the brain's internal background mode. When you are not actively consuming something, the brain starts processing. It sorts memories. It connects patterns. It calms emotional noise. It updates priorities. It rehearses future scenarios. It basically does housekeeping. But if you constantly fill every quiet gap, the brain loses those processing windows. So you can end up feeling mentally full, but not mentally settled. You consumed a lot, but you didn't integrate anything. You saw 1,000 things, but nothing landed. You were stimulated, but not restored. And this is where boredom used to help, because boredom forced pauses. And pauses created space, and space allowed the brain to reorganize. When space disappears, the brain starts to feel like it is always running, but never arriving. That sensation often gets labeled as anxiety or restlessness. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it is simply a nervous system that never gets a quiet reset. So the issue is not entertainment itself. Entertainment can be healthy and joyful. The issue is entertainment as an automatic reflex. The reflex that says, if I feel even a little discomfort, I must replace it. Because that reflex trains your brain to fear empty space. It trains your brain to treat stillness like danger. It trains your brain to treat boredom like something intolerable. And that changes your relationship with your own mind. Now, boredom doesn't lead to exploration. It leads to escape. It doesn't lead to problem solving. It leads to scrolling. It doesn't lead to creativity. It leads to consumption. And over time, consumption without integration can start to feel like emptiness. That emptiness then creates more boredom. So you reach for more stimulation, and the loop tightens. This is the reframe. The real problem is not that you get distracted. The real problem is not that you lack discipline. The deeper problem is that boredom used to guide behavior, and now it gets anesthetized before it can function. When every pause is filled, the brain never recalibrates. When the brain never recalibrates, it starts craving faster and faster relief. When it craves faster relief, slower life starts to feel unbearable. And that is why focus feels harder now. That is why creativity sometimes feels forced instead of natural. That is why rest can feel uncomfortable instead of restorative. That is why quiet moments can feel itchy, like something is missing. What is missing is the signal doing its job. Boredom was not meant to be pleasant. It was meant to be useful. It was meant to be a compass. It pointed away from what stopped working and toward what might matter more. When entertainment constantly overrides that compass, you can end up moving a lot, but not moving forward. You can be busy without being aligned. You can be stimulated without being satisfied. You can be entertained without being engaged. So the point is not to hate entertainment. The point is to remember what boredom used to provide. Boredom provided pressure to change. Boredom provided space to process. Boredom provided a bridge into deeper attention. And losing that feedback reshaped how we pay attention before most people realized it was happening. Boredom was never the enemy. It was information. It was feedback, and it mattered more than we think.